Welcome, everybody. Welcome to White City Place Connect, where we're offering occupiers of White City Place a live platform from which to learn and engage from the comfort and safety of your own home. We're going to begin today in a child's pose. All you'll need is a mat today. So let's come onto the earth that we're going to be practicing on. And our child's pose, of course, you can adjust and adapt this for your own body. We're going to have the knees not too wide, so just slightly wider than the hip bones. Hinge yourself forward, take a hold of the flesh of the buttocks and draw it out of the way so you can feel your sit bones and hook them over your heels. So you've got a little anchor there. And then start to come forward, and actually we'll walk the hands forward and just snuggle the sides of the belly and the ribcage inside your thighs. So it almost feels like the thighs are hugging you there. And we'll go straight in by stretching the arms out, bringing the hands into prayer. And the forehead can either come all the way to the floor, or you can keep the head lifted in line with the spine. As you press the little finger edge of the hands down into the mat, maybe lift your elbows off the floor. And curl the outer edges of your shoulder blades around and down. So we're connecting to the muscles around the shoulder blades to support the shoulder joints. And then allow the elbows and forearms to soften to the earth. And bring your prayer over your head so your thumbs might rest on the base of your skull or your neck. If you want to bring the elbows a little bit closer, so it's a little bit more of a tricep stretch, go ahead. We're going to pause here for a few moments, just establishing our relationship with the breath. So feeling here how as you inhale, the front body descends towards the fronts of the thighs, increasing the volume of air within the torso, and the back body rises. And as you exhale, front and back body move towards one another. Inhale, front body descends, the volume of air increases, back body rises, and exhaling, there's a reduction and returning, softening back towards the center. Take maybe 3 more breaths with this awareness. And then from here, release the little finger edges of the hands to the floor once again. So your hands are still in a prayer. Engage your pelvic floor, and as you inhale, lift your hips off your knees. And start to slowly come forward as if the lips were to come to the fingertips. As you exhale, push away from the forearms and come to sit back down. So nice and slowly. Inhaling, pelvic floor, hips lift. Coming forward, a little bit of tone to the front of the body, lips to fingertips, and exhale, pressing back. And again, inhaling, pushing out of the shins, lips to fingertips, and exhale, coming to sit all the way down. Coming up now, and this time up onto your hands, so you can parallel the shins and make sure the toes are behind the knees. Keeping the hips anchored where they are, start to stretch the arms forward. You can keep the palms flat, or you may want to again flip onto the outer edges of your hands. Elbows can be lifted, or you may need to soften them down. If the forehead comes to the floor, tuck the chin in, and then melt between the shoulder blades. At the same time, can you get a breath across the shoulder blades, turning the outer edges of your shoulders around and down, and pressing down to the tops of your feet. Quite strong. Couple of breaths here. And then when you're ready to come out of this, turn the palms down, walk the hands back towards you, gather the lower ribs to give yourself a bit of a help here. And then we're going to take the knees super wide this time, so maybe as wide as your mat, big toes to touch, Walk your hands back to sit on the heels. And move a little bit further forward. I'm running out of mat there. Bring your hands into prayer and reach up. So you can inhale, and as you exhale, circle your right hand behind you, place it to the floor. Take your hips up, and the left arm is draping over the side of the face. Let's take a couple of breaths here, softening in the elbow. And then release your sit bones back to your heels. Bring the palms together. You can inhale. As you exhale, take the left hand behind you. Press into the shins, take the hips forward. Right arm comes over. A couple of breaths here. And then release yourself down. Left arm rises, palm on palm, thumbs to the heart. And then take the hands to the floor. Creep your hands forward. You might want to narrow the knees a little bit here. Picking up the feet. Lengthen the heart forward. Draw the shoulder blades down the back. And then cross one ankle in front of the other. It doesn't matter which one. And see if you might possibly roll yourself over. You might need to lift yourself over the ankles here. Bring the tips of the toes to the floor. And taking either a half boat pose, maybe 3/4. You may want to release the arms. Maybe a full boat pose. Great. Crossing the ankles. Pull the feet underneath you. Roll yourself back over, walk your hands forward, lift the heart, change the cross, draw the shoulder blades down the back. So it's like a mini upward facing dog here. And then maybe again you can walk yourself back. You might need to lift yourself over the feet. That's uncomfortable for the bones of the feet. Tap the toes, either half, 3/4. Hands can release, hands can stay down. Full boat pose. And then crossing the ankles, maybe taking a hold. Flipping over again. And this time we're going to step back into a high plank. Lengthen the tailbone, lift the inner thighs towards the sky so the sacrum is broad. Lower your knees to the floor. Come and sit down onto the heels. Keep the toes struck so you have a little bit of a stretch to the toes and feet. Forehead down. And then inhaling, coming up onto hands and knees. Exhaling, float yourself up and back into your first downward facing dog. Raise both heels as you inhale. Exhale, sink your left heel, bend your right knee, and look underneath the left armpit. Raise both heels as you inhale. Sink your right heel, left knee bends, gaze underneath your right armpit. And coming back, lifting both toes, both heels, and sinking both heels. Walk your hands back towards your feet. So standing at the back of your mat, just let yourself hang here for a moment. Soften the knees so you can have the fingertips on the floor. If it is too much, hands can be on the shins. Feel where the weight is across both balls of your feet, the center of each heel, and let your head go. Notice if you might be holding your head at all here. Take a hold of the elbow points and enjoy that extra weight that you've created, that little traction through the spine. Giving those intervertebral discs a little bit of respite. We actually lose about an inch during the day due to the compression and loss of water, dehydration that happens between the bones of the spine. In the night that plumps up and releases. And then release the fingertips to the floor and walk your hands back into your down dog. Make sure you're long enough for a plank position. And as you inhale, float forward, whole body in one piece, hug the thigh muscles around the bones. Exhale, lift your hips up and back, really plant the palms down here. Inhaling, coming forward, back of the abdominal wall stays lifted towards the inner spine. And exhale. One more time, inhaling. This time we're going to lower the knees, pick up the feet, that little upward facing dog feeling once again. So you can drop the hips a little bit, lift the chest, maybe lift the gaze slightly. And then bending the elbows, release yourself down, so thighs, pubic bone. Take your forehead onto the back of your right hand. Take a hold of the left foot and release the right shin. Pulling the heel to slightly towards the outside of the sit bone. Bury your pubic bone and find lots of length through the front of that thigh. This might be enough here. Or you could press down onto your right forearm and lift the chest a little bit. And maybe you'll have to change the positioning of the hand. So my hand's coming inside, maybe even spinning the hand into Bakasana. This is a tricky one to get. It took me quite a while. It's quite confusing when the foot is not within your vision. So I'd spin the hand the same way as the toes. The shoulder head rolls forward and the elbow comes up. Great. And releasing the leg. Take the hands underneath the shoulders. Forehead to the floor. Push back into the hands. Tuck your toes. Then float yourself up and back into your downward facing dog. Rise up high into the balls of your feet as you inhale. Exhale, bend your right knee, sink your left heel. This time taking the weight into the right hand. Maybe the left arm comes across and touches the outer right ankle or shin, looking underneath the armpit. Take the left hand to the floor. Raise both heels as you inhale. As you exhale, bend your left knee, sink your right heel. So this is where we want to firm or attach to those muscles around the shoulder blade in the left arm. Right arm comes across, maybe looking underneath the armpit. So you're supporting that shoulder joint, you're stabilizing that shoulder joint with the muscles around the shoulder blade rather than the rotator cuff muscles. And hands come back to the floor, sink both heels. Coming forward into your plank. Inhale, base of the skull lifted, inner thighs lifted. Exhale, lower your knees, lift up the feet, start to draw your chest forward. Maybe you're going to roll down, so bending the elbows, toes stay up, lengthening to the front of the body. Forehead on the back of the left hand, reach around, catch the right foot, release the left shin. Lengthening through the skin on that thigh, burying the pubic bone. And if you wanted more, maybe coming up onto your left forearm, no pinching in the back. And the right hand's going to take a hold from the inside of the foot. Lift out to the shoulder, and then maybe the hand is spinning. Shoulder rotates forward, elbow points up. So it's maybe a slightly stronger stretch in the quad, but you don't want to feel any pinching in your lower back. If that's the case, come down. And release the shin to the floor, forehead to the earth, thumbs underneath the shoulders. Push yourself back up onto your hands and knees. Let's arch the back here into a cat. So just stretching out those muscles you've been contracting. You might want to do a little sway from side to side with the hips, or something intuitive that helps you to pull or tease away any tension in the fibers of your back. And then tucking your toes and floating your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Let's walk the feet forward towards the backs of the wrists. place the feet hip distance apart. Sit down into Utkatasana and reach the arms forward. So loads of length through the sides of your body. Press down through your right leg. Rise up with the left knee. And dive back, taking the fingertips either side of the front foot. Have the fingertips in line with the toes. Extend the heart and push away with the ball of the back foot. Press forward with your front foot. So the feet are moving in opposite directions. And there's a squeezing in from your inner thighs. This might be a small movement as you exhale, little hamstring stretch. Inhaling, coming forward, but keeping that back thigh lifted. So imagine it's on a sling and there's only so far it can go. Exhaling. Inhaling. One more time. Exhale. Inhale. This time lowering your back knee down, extending your back toes, reaching forward, coming up into your crescent lunge. Lift the pelvic bones, lift the heart. Couple of breaths, release any gripping in your front toes, and then take the hands to the floor, tuck your back toes, and step back into a downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here. And then floating your right leg up behind you. You can find that half pointed, half flexed foot. So you point the foot like a dancer, flex the toes back. So you're pressing the ball of the foot away. And imagine you're trying to press a button with your big toe joint. Come forward into a one-legged plank, so maybe that leg stays hovering. If you want more, the left fingertips stretch forward and just on the tips of your fingers. So you've got that nice little diagonal movement. And feel where the hips are. So they could rock to one side or the other. Pelvic bones more or less equal distance to the earth. Take the hand back. Take the ball of the foot to the floor. Lower your knees down. Come and sit down onto the heels. Exhale. Inhale, come up onto hands and knees. Exhale, float yourself up and back into your downward facing dog, softening the elbows. Suck the fronts of your thighs up towards your pelvis. Calf muscles lengthening down towards the heels. Walking your feet forward towards the backs of the wrists. Place your feet to hip distance apart. Sit down into Utkatasana. Reaching your arms forward. Pour the weight into the left leg, right knee rises. And step back, taking the fingertips either side of your front foot. So as if you're trying to split the mat, front foot moves forward, ball of the back foot moves back, and there's a squeezing in from your inner thighs. Exhale, begin to straighten the leg a bit. Inhale, come forward, keep that back thigh suspended. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhale, lower your back knee down. Lengthen the back toes, push into the front foot, floating your arms up. Keep the pelvic bones and the heart lifted. Take the hands to the floor and step back as you tuck your back toes. Use your hands so this front foot almost suspends itself as you step it back into down dog. Coming forward. Oh, no, we're not coming forward. We're going to float the left leg up. Press the ball of the foot away. And imagine you're trying to press a button with your big toe joint. Float forward into a one-legged plank. And of course, you can take the toes down here if this is too much. Maybe the right fingertips stretch forward. So on the tips of your fingers, you've got this little diagonal stretch. Taking the right hand back, take the toes to the floor. It's hard. Lower the knees. Come and sit down onto the heels. Inhaling, coming up onto hands and knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. And walking your feet forward towards the backs of the wrists. That's it. Turn around, sit down into Utkatasana. Take the weight onto the right leg. Left knee comes up. We're going to flex the foot. Arms are by the ears. Keep the hips square and take the leg out to the side. The hips are square. The knee's going to be a little bit more on an angle here. Take it back through to the center. And then take the hands underneath your thigh. Make a little hammock. And let the thigh bone rest into the hands so the arms are straight. Inhale, extend the leg. Might be here, might be all the way. Exhale, heel to sit bone. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale. Exhale. Step back, taking the toes to the floor. Lovely. As you sweep your left arm back, bring the left heel down and root down through the feet as you carry yourself up into your warrior two. Soften the elbows, release the shoulders, gaze towards the right fingertips. Straightening up and turning the toes in. So first of all, the feet are parallel. And depending on how wide you are, toes turn out about 10 degrees or heels in a little bit. Bend your knees and drop down into your wide-legged squat. Feel where the weight is. So you might do a little rock here between the feet until you find that place where you're right in the center. You can inhale, exhale, right forearm onto thigh, left arm over. Inhaling, coming back. Nothing much moves from the hips. Exhale. It's the upper part body of your Parsvakonasana. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Inner arches lifted. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Spin the heel out. You might need to turn the right toes out a little bit more. Arrive in your Parsvakonasana. Spinning the heart. Sit bone, right sit bone curling underneath you a little bit. Left hand comes to the floor. Swivel up the back heel. Right arm rises into a counter twist. Wiggle the right foot a little bit out towards the right side of your mat. Lower your back knee down. Lengthen the toes and the right arm circles to reach forward by the ear. And maybe you're bringing your belly and ribcage slightly inside your thigh here. You could even turn your right toes out a little bit. So the movement here is to roll towards your left hip. Open up your arm like a gate. And then coming back. And again, opening as you inhale. You might even flip onto the outer edge of the foot. And then come back. One more time. Inhaling. Exhaling. Turning the toes in. Tuck the back toes. Lift the back knee. Walk yourself across. Turn your left toes out a little bit. Walk hands to left foot and left elbow comes inside of the shin for your lunge, looking towards your right big toe. Coming back. Walk yourself back around towards the front, right foot in front, and spring your back foot forward to fold. Well done. Let yourself hang here. Pause for a moment. And sitting down into Utkatasana, reach your arms forward. Weight onto the left leg, right knee rises. Hip bones are square, melt the shoulders, take the knee out. So it's pointing more towards the corner of your own square that you may be standing in than right out to the side. Take it back. Interlace the fingers underneath the thigh. Let the thigh bone drop into the hands so the arms straighten. Inhale, extend the leg. Exhale, heel to sit bone. Inhale, extend. Exhale. Doesn't need to be straight. Inhale. Exhale, step back. Take the fingertips to the floor. As your back heel comes down, the right arm sweeps back so you can make your way from the ground up into your warrior two, melting the shoulders away from the ears. Straighten up, turn your toes in, arms are extending out, and depending on how wide you are, heels in or toes out, bending the knees into your wide squat. Take an inhale, reach out, exhale, left forearm onto thigh, right arm over. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhale, lift up out of the waist. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Last time, we're going to pause here. Spin your right heel out. Let the right hip rotate in a little. Left toes out. Spin the heart. Left sit bone curling underneath you as you breathe. Long, energetic line from your right fingertips all the way through to your outer right heel. Right hand to the floor, swivel up your back heel, raise your left arm up into your counter twist. Wiggle your left foot towards the outer edge of the mat, lower your back knee down, lengthen the toes, and circle the arm so it comes inside. So you may be turning your left toes out a little bit. Arm is like a gate as it opens, roll towards your outer right hip. Inhale. Exhale, take it back. Inhaling. You might come slightly onto the outer edge of your left foot. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Take the fingertips to the floor. Tuck the back toes. Lift yourself up. Walk yourself across. Turn the right toes out. Use the right elbow against the inner calf muscle for this long lunge as you look towards the left toe. And coming back up, walking yourself around towards the left foot. Glide the back foot forward, feet or hip distance apart. Lift and lengthen, it's as if you're trying to lift your belly over your knees, or hook your ribcage over your knees, and let yourself hang. And just take a moment to release any accumulative tension in the neck or the back of the occiput here. Sit down into Utkatasana. Take the weight onto the right leg, left knee rises. Let's take it out again a little bit. Take it back, interlace the hands underneath the thigh, just once this time. So you can either let the thigh rest into the hands and do the same variation, or you might lift the thigh a little bit higher, and leave a little bit higher to extend the leg. Bend the knee, step back, taking the fingertips to the floor. As your back heel comes down, left arm sweeps back. Carry yourself up into your warrior two. Soften the elbows, melt the shoulders. Right forearm onto the thigh, left arm comes up and over. If you wanted to go further, reach the right fingertips to the floor and just extend your left arm so it's vertically up. Tailbone lengthening towards the heel, back of the neck long. Further to this, you could take a half bind, left arm around the back of the waist. And for a full bind, your right thigh wants to be perpendicular to the floor. Slide the shoulder blade down and maybe reach underneath. And you can hook a finger or two, or you can hold onto the wrist that comes around from the top. Keep curling your sit bone underneath you, leaning your shoulder blades back. And then as we release this, take the fingertips to the floor here. Swivel up your back heel. And step the back foot in so you can ground the heel. You might need a bit more width between the heels. You could wiggle your right foot out a fraction. Left toes are not quite parallel. They're turning out just a little bit here. And then feel if your hips are level. It's quite a tricky one to feel here. You could stay here. If it's too much, have the hands on the shins or hands on blocks. If you want more, forehead to shin. And maybe the arms reach back and you flick onto the backs of your hands. Just resting the hands down there and feel where your hips are in space. Couple of breaths here, really rooting down through both legs from the center of your pelvis. Or wherever you are. So we're aligning our bodies to the pose rather than the other way around. Reaching your fingertips forward. Bend your front knees, swivel up the back heel, shift the weight over, raising up your left leg. So it's a supported warrior 3. Try to square the hip bones, extending the heart. And then float the foot to the earth. Feet are together. Squeeze the knees, let yourself fold. Take the forearms around the backs of the calves and squeeze yourself in a little bit here. Fingers point down. And this time we're going to come all the way up to standing slowly. And as you exhale, separate the feet and draw your thumbs down towards your midline. Feet are hip distance apart. Release the arms down. Sit down into Utkatasana. Take the weight onto the left leg, right knee rises. Tip the knees slightly out. Take it back. And interlace the hands underneath the thigh. So either letting the thigh drop down so that the arms are straight. That might be enough for the hamstring. Or bending the elbows to pull the thigh in a little bit. Extending leg. Bending and stepping back. Fingertips either side of the front foot. As your back heel comes down, the right arm sweeps back to carry you into your warrior 2, melting the shoulders, softening the elbows. Take an inhale, exhale, left forearm to thigh, right arm comes up and over. Scooping the armpit. If you wanted more, right arm rises as the left fingertips come to the floor. Right arm could wrap around the back of the waist. So these are all the stages you can choose from, lots of choice. Half bind or a full bind as you slide the shoulder blade inside, hand underneath. Taking a hold of the wrist that comes around from the top or interlocking a finger or 2. Couple of breaths here. Releasing out of this, take your hands either side of the front foot. Back foot's going to step in, maybe a foot and a half. To place the heel down, you can wiggle the left foot out to the left side of the mat a little to create some more space. Right toes turn out slightly, fingertips on the floor, or come higher if you need. Or forehead to shin, again, lots of choice. They're all good choices. There's not one better than the other. It's just the one that's right for you right now. And how do you know what's right for you? So you can be here. The sensations are interesting rather than overwhelming. Obviously there's no pain. We never want any pain in our yoga poses. And there's no forcing. And also check in with your breath. That'll be an excellent guide to where you want to be in your pose. If you're holding your breath, you might have gone a little bit too far, there might be too much effort, or if the breath is weak and inconsistent, you may have lost your focus. Let's stretch the arms forward. Bend the left knee. Swivel up the back heel. Shift the weight over. Raising up your right leg. Toes are pointing down. Lift up out of the shoulders. Just light on the fingertips, but we're going to keep them down today in the supported warrior 3. And then release the foot to the floor. Spread out the toes, soften the knees, and let yourself hang. Once again, wrap the forearms around the backs of the legs. So the elbows are narrow. You're just squeezing yourself in a little bit. It's a bit of a balance because you've got less surface space. So really squeeze the knees. And then taking an inhale, slowly come all the way back up. We're going to fly forward. I think my clock stopped working, so excuse me while I just check the time. Again. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, fly forward and touch the earth. Stepping back with your left toes. Take the right hand to the inside of the foot and walk yourself around into a wide-legged fold. Good, so your feet can be anywhere here from about 3 to 5 feet, and you'll have a different experience wherever you place them. Take a hold of the elbow points and let yourself hang. So if you're quite flexible and the forearms are on the floor, you want to wiggle your feet a little bit closer. If you're very far away from the earth, feet a little bit wider and let your head hang. Keep the navel lifted to support the spine. And can we pull the heels in towards one another? They're not going to go anywhere, but it's that energetic action of sucking heels in here. You're turning your left toes out, bend the knee and sweep the arms over as you exhale. Inhale, toes in, toes out. Let the shoulder and the elbow come over. Toes in, toes out. Coming over here. This time I'm going to place the fingertips to the floor and you might come all the way. Heel can be up, heel can be down. Turning your right knee and your right toes towards the sky. So this might be enough just with the fingertips on the floor here, upright. You could start to come down, dropping the heart. And if you wanted to try a bind, then your left shoulder rotates forward. You wrap the arm around, so maybe hand comes onto the sacrum. So half bind, that might be enough. Full bind, right arm comes around and you interlock a finger or two. You could even place the forehead on the floor if you wanted, or if that is available for you. And then taking the fingertips to the floor. Creep yourself back up. Take yourself around towards the right foot. And step back into a downward facing dog. Lovely. Couple of breaths here. And then lowering the knees to the floor, come onto your forearms. Elbows are underneath the shoulders and the forearms are parallel, index fingers are parallel. Lifting your knees off the floor, come into a forearm dog. And here you might raise the heels and bring the shoulders forward a little bit, looking towards the thumbs, and then push back. But you're going to hold the shape here, the inverted V, rather than coming forward into a plank. So lifting the heels, coming forward, and then pushing away from the forearms and sending the heels down. One more time. And then lowering your knees, flattening your feet, come back into a child's pose. Maybe rest your forehead on the backs of your hands. You could sway the hips from side to side here. Just be in stillness, experiencing the fullness of your breath. Stretching your arms out in front of you and back onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Let the right leg up behind you, inhale. Exhale, step the foot forward. Stretch your fingertips forward as you raise up the back leg briefly and release the foot to the floor. Let your fingers draw back, let your head go. You can inhale, lead with your heart, come all the way up to standing. And as you exhale, thumbs down towards your midline. Inhale into your heart. Exhale, release the arms down. Take a big wide breath. Reaching up and exhale, fly forward, touch the earth. Step back with your right toes. Take the left hand to the inside. Walk yourself around into this wide-legged forward fold once again. And this time, perhaps, we're going to see if we can place the palms flat. Maybe even pop your heels to the back of your mat and wiggle the feet far enough away that you may be able to take the crown of the head to the floor and cup the back of the skull. Now, this may not happen and you can just let yourself hang here. Don't be so wide that you feel your legs are going to give away underneath you. So you still want that stability. And if you're here with the head on the floor, only if you have the head on the floor and your neck is okay and the forearms are down, maybe you're going to lift your heels and come up onto the tips of your toes. And then bring them down. So it's a little scooping up through the belly. And down. Good. Walking yourself back up onto your hands. If you're too long, wiggle the feet in. And then the right toes turn out of fraction as you walk your hands over. So you may need to drag that left thigh bone back into the socket. You can roll the inner thigh and toes towards the sky. Fingertips can be on the floor. Or you could start to make your way down here, hands to the earth. Bowing the heart. Half bind, the right shoulder rotates forward, so you can wrap the arm around the shin. Reaching the fingers towards the hip. Full bind, left arm comes around. Maybe interlock the fingers, forehead could come down. And if you've tried that and it feels too much, come up a stage. Releasing the fingertips to the earth. Creep yourself through. Turn yourself around towards the left foot into a lunge. Reach the fingertips forward. Shift the weight over. Right leg rises, heart lifts. And sweep the foot to the floor. Let your head go. Fingers draw back. Heel toe the feet hip distance apart and turn the toes out a little bit. Drop yourself down into a squat. Heels can be off or can be on. Let's take the arms out and take the hands behind the skull. That's it. Leaning forward here, so maybe belly and ribcage comes inside of the thigh. Keep the elbows open. Maybe the heels come down as you come forward, maybe not. And then lifting yourself up again and maybe popping up onto the toes. So you could do this full range of movement here from balls of the feet to coming forward, keeping the elbows lifted, heels sinking, belly and chest inside. And then lengthening forward through your heart and coming all the way up. Releasing the fingertips to the floor. Spin your heels behind the toes and the feet are parallel. Last forward fold. Release the hands to the earth. Step back into a high plank. Feel through the length of your spine. Lower your knees. Flatten your feet and come to sit down into your child's pose. Lovely. Inhaling, coming up once again. So just going to make that same transition. Roll onto your knees, draw your chest through, lift the feet with the shoulder blades down the back. Cross one ankle, doesn't matter which one. And roll yourself over onto your sit bones. The back of your mat, stretch your legs forward. Good. And let's point the toes and raise the arms. And we'll do a few little sit bone walks. Just to recalibrate the pelvis. Hands could actually be on the hips if you like that. Legs are straight. And also just so that you've got some mat to lie down onto behind you. Reach the arms forward. Coming forward and then coming back, perhaps. Should we flex the feet here? I can't see my feet in here. Coming forward and coming back. So just a little pumping action here in Paschimottanasana. Lovely. Coming forward and then folding. Wherever you are, you might be a little bit more upright. Hands onto the floor, shins or ankles or feet. Keep the feet nice and active as you breathe. So if you're here, that's fine. Wherever you are, walking your hands back towards you. Using your hands to lift your sit bones, take them towards the heels and curl your way down onto the earth. And let's just hug the knees towards us. Take the knees hip distance apart and keeping the tailbone reaching down and forward. Take a little rock across the sacrum. So there's a sense of heaviness to the sacrum and a sense of lightness to the lower back. I'm turning my head to the opposite side of the knees here. And then bringing the knees together. Maybe fingertips come behind the back of the skull for a slightly stronger shoulder opener. Drop the knees over to one side. Relax the toes, ankles, shins, knees. If the arms are not comfortable, shoulders are not comfortable, you can place them out to the sides or a little bit closer towards the body. Squeeze the knees, draw your knees back through to the center, and take the knees over towards the right. Other side. You may have done the right on the first side. Relax the toes, ankles, shins, knees. Come back through to the center. Place the feet to the floor. Use the fingers and slide them up the back of the skull just to create an extra little bit more length before you place the head onto the earth. You can slide the backs of the hands along the floor behind you as if they were sliding on a slippery surface. And then circle the arms out to the sides and down. Preparing for your Shavasana. And this may be where you want to stay. So there's a little bit of heaviness into the pelvis, a little bit of lightness into the lower back. Or you could stretch your legs forward if your back is okay here into full Shavasana. And take a few conscious breaths. letting go of everything you've done in this last hour. With each exhalation, release thoughts, desires, emotions, and each inhale, draw in presence. Each exhale, releasing thoughts, desires, emotions, and inhaling, receiving presence. If you wish to stay here a little longer, of course you can, because you're at home. And if that's the case, just let my final words wash over you. If you would prefer to join me to conclude your practice, then slowly start to make your way back to the body, and back to the relationship you have with your breath. You could give yourself a big stretch out if you like, raising the arms above your head. Take a big inhale, like a big yawn, and as you exhale, hug your knees in towards your chest, or just simply roll yourself quietly over to the right side. And you make your way back to a comfortable seat, whatever that is for you. Bring your hands into prayer and rest your forehead on the flats of your hands. The clarity of thought to your lips, the satya, truthfulness and kindness of word to your heart, the love in action. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. I hope you may join me next week.